Welcome
to
a Walk on the Bright Side
with
Skyman
and Hosey.
Okay, episode 34, and it's great that we're welcoming back our guest, Stephen Thomas.
Stephen Thomas, we've had him once before, and he's one of the great local heroes. And I had the thought, just as I was sort of coming here today, that I bet you're not on Cheltenham Borough Council's Christmas card list, mate.
Yeah, well, welcome to Stephen.
Yeah, welcome to Stephen. Yeah. Oh, that was meant to be a joke that fell flat, but never mind.
It's a badge of honour.
Yeah.
But having said that, I am quite tempted to send them a Christmas card in a few months' time.
I'd love to see that.
Hey, Stephen, do you just want to briefly summarise, what your previous engagement with Cheltenham Borough Council has been, which you spoke about when you were on the show last, before we get into talking about your current campaign?
Yeah, well, last time we spoke, I was talking about my legal battle against Cheltenham Borough Council, which lasted almost 2.5 years. So it went through the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and then it even reached the Supreme Court with regards to a 5G tower that was located 17 metres away from people's bedrooms and well within an exclusion zone. So it was a lengthy legal battle where I won the High Court battle. The judge agreed that the council failed to take into account the effects of EMFs on people with medical implants. But he didn't grant me relief because he thought, in his opinion, if the decision were to be taken again, that the decision would be the same. So it was a very kind of subjective decision, definitely a cop-out. But nevertheless, it was on record that there is harm from this equipment. And the council, in cahoots with the telecoms company, were desperate to overturn it, even though they thought they'd won the case, which obviously they hadn't. So they took it to the Court of Appeal. We both tried to appeal it in actual fact, but only the council were granted appeal on papers. So it went to a full day's hearing at the Court of Appeal, which they lost to the tune of about 60 grand of the taxpayer.
Wow.
And all in all, as we discussed last time, the total bill that came out of our pockets was close to 100 grand.
Wow. That's absolutely criminal.
It is criminal. Using public funds like that should be spent, in the public interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And clearly ignoring health concerns, ignoring evidence around health is not in the public interest. So we actually got the tower stopped shortly afterwards when we did a leafleted the local residents, explaining to them what had happened, the fact that their residences were within the exclusion zone. Enough people wrote in to both the telecoms and the council for them to withdraw the planning application. Which leads us on now, which I think you're going to ask me, is about my latest endeavours. So fairly recently, 3 months ago, there was an application on the planning portal to lop trees, i.e. cut down a significant part of some trees to cater for a mast upgrade. And this was only 50 metres away from the mast that we stopped. There's an existing mast 50 metres away, and there was an application made to lop the trees, which was approved within 7 days in a conservation area. Yet no mast upgrade application had been submitted. No details of the exclusion zone have been submitted because, interestingly enough, the operator had given very brief reasons, but one of the reasons he gave was to clear the occupational exclusion zone, which was quite ironic given the fact that Cheltenham Borough Council had spent over 2 years completely denying the existence of exclusion zones.
Wow, wow.
Um,
So if they didn't apply through the normal planning process, how did you find out about it, Stephen?
well, we saw the application on the planning portal, which we regularly check. Now, this application is well, basically when trees, when there's any alterations to trees in a conservation area, there has to be a formal what's called a section 211 notification to the council, and there's a statutory 6-week period in which the council have to assess whether a tree preservation order is required. So that gives them time for a tree officer to make an assessment, look at the amenity value of the trees, and decide if a tree preservation order is required or not. The fact that they approved it in 7 days strongly suggested to me that no such assessment had been made.
Mm-hmm.
And that was then confirmed a week later when I did a freedom of information request asking to see the tree officer's assessment, and to which they replied that no such report existed. So they're
So
breaking.
Stephen, can I just ask you a question there? Do you think that they have done that knowing that they weren't following the necessary procedures and just hoping that no one would notice? I.e., is this kind of cock up, or is this conspiracy, or is it just kind of cock up? Are they just not very competent? Or of course,
No,
a mixture of the two.
I personally think that they did it within 7 days because they know people like myself look at that planning portal for telecoms applications, and they thought if we approve this quickly before someone objects, which they've got a right to do, then there's nothing people can do. So they approved it in 7 days instead of 6 weeks to stop people like myself from presenting evidence. Now, the evidence that I could have presented was very material, because I then went up to photograph the trees and I discovered a load of nests high up in those trees belonging to birds or bats, which are protected species. I then made a separate application for a tree preservation order based on my evidence, but obviously I could have presented that as an official objection at the time within that 6-week statutory period, and then that would have been material evidence, to take into account. So they knew that by approving it within 7 days, they could, run roughshod over our rights to present evidence, basically.
But you think that when they did that, they knew that they weren't following the procedures they were meant to be following?
Oh,
Do you
they
think
totally
must
knew.
have known
It's
that?
it's on their website. If you go onto their website,
Yeah.
in the trees section, it clearly says that any alterations to trees in the conservation areas are subject to an assessment by a tree officer before
Okay.
any works can carry out, because they have to determine if a tree preservation order is required.
Okay. So presumably you have challenged this with them. You've taken it up with the kind of planning officer or whoever it is. Has there been any response?
There was an initial response. It was very defensive.
Yeah.
I'd written to them to kind of give them a letter before claim, which also served as an objection and an opportunity to remedy their blatant failure to follow their own process.
Yeah.
And they wrote back extremely defensively, trying to rewrite my grounds of claim against them, saying that any decision will be defended in the courts. And what they'd done, they were entitled to do, which they're not. They have to respect the 6-week statutory period that is part of the legislation, and crucially, it's part of their own procedure. So, not only is the head of planning liable, but the Section 211 officer is also responsible in their personal capacities.
I'm getting the impression that the Cheltenham Council are run by criminals. People that don't give a shit about the law.
Don't sit on the fence, Dave.
No. Well, I mean, what else can you say? That it's criminal behaviour, as far as I'm concerned.
It is criminal. They come up with all this lengthy, confusing legislation, I should say, and they don't follow it themselves. And the gatekeepers in the court just find a way to let them off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't help but suspecting that this backhand is being made here or something.
Well, I was about to ask you exactly the similar question. What's your sense of what are the background sort of dynamics going on here? Is it that these people are being put under great pressure and they're being told from higher up that you have to drive this through, and therefore they're kind of reluctantly doing that, knowing they're going against their own procedures? Or have they themselves got a vested interest in trying to drive this through, and so they're trying to manipulate things in whatever way they can to drive it through, knowing they're doing it? What do you think are the dynamics going on there?
I think it's a bit of both, Rich. Certainly, like we're seeing up and down the country, that telecoms are, being very forceful and very aggressive with councils, and the councils are kind of, giving in to their demands at every opportunity, because they know that the telecoms are more likely to instigate legal proceedings against them than the public are.
Yeah. Well, they've learned a lesson there, haven't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look through case law actually on telecoms going over the last kind of 20, 30 years, it's all been telecoms themselves that have been instigating it. I think there was one case, the Nunn case in 2005 was the exception to that. But pretty much all the other case law is where the telecoms themselves have argued their case, why they thought the council was wrong to refuse their equipment.
Right.
And,
so the telecoms people are probably getting backhanders from the government in terms of quotas. Get so many masts up, so many upgrades, and you get an extra percentage on whatever.
Yeah, and it's undeniable that talks are going on behind the scenes. I mean, even before an application is submitted, we know that the telecoms are having conversations with the council and potentially councillors as well to determine whether, that site is feasible before they put it on the planning portal.
Right.
And I think in this particular instance with the trees, I think they had a conversation just before Christmas when they decided to withdraw their planning permission for the mast that we stopped, and they said, "Well, look, we'll withdraw it if you give us a hand trying to relocate it somewhere else."
Right. So that what you've just said there, Stephen, that answers another question I had, which was there is some relationship between this current what's going on here and the previous legal case that you brought against these people. They are definitely very closely related. Yeah,
they're joined at the hip. I mean, it's 50 meters away, and hence why they approved it in such a short time frame. I guess the concerning thing is that no mast application or exclusion zone diagrams were supplied. So by chopping those trees, you're going to leave the houses behind that existing mast well within the exclusion zone, because those trees would have afforded the residents some degree of protection. Trees are very, very shielding in terms of EMF, as you know.
Yeah.
And by chopping them down, you're leaving the top floor flats exposed. And if they go and put in a high-powered 5G installation, that's going to make it even worse. So rather than clearing the exclusion zone, what they're doing is they're propagating the signal. chopping the trees to make sure that the signal can kind of get out and propagate around the area. And in doing so, it's going to endanger the people in those flats, of which the council clearly don't give a shit about.
Yeah. So, and we handed out 500 of this wonderful leaflet that you've had made in Cheltenham just over a week ago. And I was saying to a friend of mine, I think there's going to be a revolution in Cheltenham on Saturday when all these people start reading this let's call it this latest outrage with Cheltenham Borough Council. So where have you got to at the moment? You're still in a kind of jousting stage with them and trying to figure out whether this is going to have to go to court again, or whether they're kind of bluffing? Are they going to draw back? Are you in a place of trying to find out where this is going to go?
I think it's a bit of an odd situation, if I'm perfectly honest with you. You know, they've been the telecoms have been given approval, but I wrote to the telecoms to say, you know, there are nests, birds' nests up there, and this is subject to, you know, a legal dispute, because you can't just go and chop those down. Yeah. You know, when there's protected habitats in those trees, and there's an ongoing dispute between myself and the planning department. And to be fair, they wrote back and they did say that, okay, we're not going to take any further action until we hear back from you. So that was kind of encouraging, but you know, I to be honest, I don't know where this goes from here. A lot of people have written in to the council. There's been organisations such as AICS and EMF, sorry, Eileen Burke's charity. I forget their names. They'd written in to Cheltenham Borough Council on behalf of the public generally, and Cheltenham Borough Council have just completely closed shop. They're not answering any correspondence at all. They made a brief reply back to Eileen, but it had no substance to it. And you know, since both Eileen and other people have written to them, they've just gone very deafeningly silent.
Right. Have you I don't quite know how to put this, but have you thought of engaging the kind of local environmental groups like Friends of the Earth? Because, you know, although I do understand that there are questions about the extent to which those organisations have been kind of captured by the whole globalist movement, the people involved in those organisations would find it very hard not to join with you in a campaign when it's about protecting birds and protecting bats, etc. I don't know whether you thought of trying to expand the kind of movement into the local environmental organisations, which do carry a lot of clout, perhaps partly because they are captured organisations. I don't know, that maybe raises like a quite a different issue that. And I don't know whether you've even thought about going down that route or not.
I had spoken to a couple of organisations. There's an organisation down south who very much have been like arguing about the rights of preserving trees in their area, where, you know, trees are just kind of getting chopped left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's on your property, or if you want to make an alteration to a tree, they really kind of you know, dig their heels into the ground and make it as difficult as possible.
Yeah.
So it seems that like there's very kind of preferential treatment for preferred telecom providers. Yeah, it's a tough one. I could well try and find some other organisations. The response back from the council was very disappointing when I raised the fact that there were protected species in there, the birds and bats nests, and they just deflect it to the wildlife officer and the police. saying it's not our responsibility, it's the wildlife officer. But that completely negates their responsibility to, prevent avoidable harm, injury, or nuisance. If they know that there's protected species in there, then they have an obligation to make sure that doesn't happen in the first instance. But it's like we see all the time with these public servants. They're absolute masters in passing the buck to someone else.
Yeah.
It's not us, it's them. Speak to them.
Exactly.
And it's just like a merry-go-round. No one wants to take responsibility. There's no accountability whatsoever. It's just an absolute joke.
Yeah. So, would you mind if when this goes live on our Substack, which hopefully might be a bit later today or certainly by tomorrow, would you mind if I was to do a bit of research and send a link to it to the local Friends of the Earth, to the local Greenpeace, to the local Wildlife Trust, etc., to find some local environmental organisations to see if we can mobilise some of those organisations to actually take an interest in this?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Very happy to do that.
The more we can engage other bodies, the better. And the great thing about this, even if you're pro 5G or pro telecoms, you read what's happened here, and you can see it's a complete abusive process. And the council have to follow their own procedures.
Yeah.
And the legislation, and they're clearly not doing it. I mean, I went round and delivered those leaflets to all the flats and houses around the area, and I did get to speak to one or two people, and they were very interested. Obviously, that was the first they'd heard of it. No one had told them. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. And their natural reaction was, "Well, what can we do? Can we do anything?" And I didn't really have an answer to that, just because the permission had been granted, and I don't know, but I think when there's enough public pressure, as we saw 6 months ago, that public pressure can make things happen.
Yeah. So is there you're an absolute whiz when it comes to the law and understanding the law. I haven't got a clue about these things, but I huge respect for you in the way you're able to understand these things. Do you think there are any grounds in this case for you kind of taking this to law, or would you be prepared to do a kind of crowdfund to raise the funding to do that? Or
yeah, I mean, I'll answer that directly. And after my experience the last 2 years, it's just become very apparent to me that the judiciary are kind of hand in hand with the councils. They very much side with the council, and the last 2 years has taken a big toll on my life. If I'm honest with you, it's just been absolutely draining. Which is what it's meant to be, so you challenge them in their own system, and it drags on, it becomes expensive.
Yeah.
You don't get justice in one court, you have to go to another court, and the fact that their legal bills were almost 100 grand, which they could have tried to pin on me if they had been successful. It's used as a threat against people taking action against them. And in this case, the evidence is so strong, but I knew that it would just be a lengthy process again, and I just don't think the judicial system is fit for purpose anymore. It was shocking what happened the last couple of years, where they ignored prima facie evidence. They kind of subvert. Even the judge in the High Court, he had completely rewrote my grounds in his judgment. So I don't think it doesn't get any less corrupt the higher up you go in the judicial system. It's just the case that the judges get cleverer and they're better at hiding the corruption than in the lower courts.
Wow.
Right.
That's my honest kind of answer, having experienced it myself.
So that must be, I'm making an assumption here, but that, to me, that sounds very, very sort of demoralizing. I mean, if I imagine myself in your situation, having given up a couple of years in your life, and I've got some sense of the amount of commitment that you've had to have to take it as far as you've done. It must be pretty sort of dispiriting to discover that this system that's supposed to stand for justice actually stands for bloody corruption. It's an absolute bloody outrage. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you were at some level you're very, very angry about this as well, and that would be very justifiable, I have to say, because I'm feeling angry just talking about it and just sort of listening to you talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what the sad part was, the judicial review some 18 months ago, and the judge knew that there were people living within that exclusion zone. There was a vulnerable lady with metal clips in her bowel. He was actually, trying to give evidence, and he disallowed her giving evidence. He knew that there were vulnerable people in that building, and he just completely ignored it in his judgment. The exclusion zone issue, he reframed it about the issue of the medical implants at the retirement home some 100 meters away. So the whole case became fixed on that issue rather than the elephant in the room, which was the exclusion zone. So they did everything they can just to completely avoid that whole argument and issue around the exclusion zone, because they knew that it would have opened up a huge can of worms up and down the country, where you've got these masts so close to residences, and any kind of ruling on exclusion zones could have been highly damaging to the telecoms industry. But what's more important, you can't just put these monstrosities up wherever you want. You have to respect the distance, proximity to people's homes, and I mean, seeing how the judge completely ignored that issue altogether, it was pretty disgusting.
Right. Yeah. So what we can do is do what we're doing right now, is to expose this system in great detail. Fairly. You're doing it very fairly. You're not kind of making stuff up. You're not casting around smears. You're not being manipulative. You're just describing exactly how this system actually works, because we need to help as many people as possible to wake up to the way this system is absolutely rigged. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. 100%, Richard. That's exactly it. And I think exposing them en masse, doing leaflets, talking about it, that's what they're scared of, really. They hate the public backlash.
Yeah.
Because they hide behind their corporate veil. All these employees just think that they can, do what they want, and they hide behind the veil of the corporation, the corporate council, and they need to be exposed. I mean, part of me, and this might be kind of coming on to a question you're about to ask me, and I think you did ask me when I saw you last week, is, are these people doing it knowing that their local council is about to get consumed by this whole local government reorganisation?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a very valid question. And I think to a large degree, possibly yes. They know that they're kind of, what they're doing at the moment is going to come to an end. Whether they kind of carry on working for the big, larger unitary authority is another thing, but certainly places like Cheltenham Borough Council, the other district councils, parish councils, they're all getting dissolved, and people are just like, well, we'll just do what we want, because there's not going to be any accountability.
So, sorry, Dave, I'm doing far too much talking. After I've asked this question, I'll leave the floor to you. So, Stephen, just picking up on what you just said, might there be some way of, because you're part of a kind of network of people all over the country who are very aware of what's going on and who are very active in this area. Might it be possible to do a bit of research to find out whether this might be a kind of general trend? I mean, you might already know whether this is the case or not, whereby, like right across the country, where councils are about to be got rid of, they might be sort of taking that as a green light to start to drive through all kinds of nefarious things, particularly around this particular issue around masts and around 5G. Have you got any sense of whether that might be happening?
Yes, yeah, I kind of do get that sense. Although it's been happening for quite some time. It's not something recent, but
Right.
I do think that the level of accountability now is much less than what it was before. And if and when we do get these large unitary authorities, I think any kind of local level engagement, local level pushback becomes much harder, because these decisions are taken centrally by a mayor who will most likely be part of the C40 program under Sadiq Khan, responsible for the implementation of these smart cities. So local level, certainly parish councils, where there's a lot more local level engagement, it removes that from the equation, and it's much easier then for a top-down approach, a centralized kind of power, if you like. So it's something we should all be taking very seriously as the local government reorganisation, because it will impact each and every one of us if it goes through, and we've got an opportunity now just to really say no, because it's completely undemocratic.
Yeah, and I imagine that if it does go through, and there's, say, I don't know, one council for the whole of Gloucestershire and that's it, then challenging them will be much more difficult,
Yes,
because they'll feel they've got a lot more power to wield, and they'll kind of just do what they want. So this collusion between councils, tech companies, the judiciary,
Government, central government.
central government, absolutely. It, I can't get my head around so many people can be coerced or blackmailed or threatened or incentivized in some way to do the wrong thing. I just can't get my head around that. I'm thinking maybe we should start our own little council. you know,
that,
Why
that, that
not?
actually that actually is the way forward.
Yeah.
I am in discussion with groups up and down the country, and I think that is the way forward. And there are certainly groups that are very advanced in doing that at the moment, setting up their own constitution. And
Mm.
I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, because these institutions aren't fit for purpose. They're not serving the people anymore,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Well,
we've
we
got to
I've
take we've got to take that power back.
that's right. I've joined. I don't know. You've probably heard of CABI, the Community Assemblies of British
Yes,
Isles. I think they're making great progress, and I think that's kind of one of their initiatives, is to have local councils, local courts, where we take care of ourselves. So that's certainly developing.
yes, yeah. Cabby are
Mm.
doing a wonderful job,
Mm.
and they're getting lots of new members on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So anyone listening to this should definitely go and find out who your local cabbie group is, because they're everywhere up and down the country, and
Absolutely.
get involved, because they're doing wonderful stuff.
Yeah. So for the listeners, if you want to investigate that, if you just put Cabby in, you won't get anything. You have to put in Community Assemblies British Isles, and you'll get a link come up to their website.
Yep, yep, yeah. That's definitely the way forward. Because we can't reform these institutions. They've become so corrupted at every level. We have to completely get rid of them and start again. You can't fix something as deeply broken as this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that they've been doing it for a long time, haven't they? I can imagine the brainwashing that's been going on. I can, imagine in my head, the government sending PowerPoint presentations for the council to watch to tell them what they have to do, and they just follow it to the T.
Yes. Yep.
And is it right that it's possible to kind of trace what's happening with this so-called local government reorganization right up to a sort of globalist agenda, like which is now kind of cascading right down through the whole political system? It is possible to kind of trace it right back to there. Is that right?
Absolutely. And Andy Burnham has been the architect of this for many, many years. He's been the architect of devolution. So it's no coincidence that he's just, somehow got into power very quickly.
I mean, puppet.
Yeah, very much so. So he's been engineering this for a long time. And, it's something that councils have been working towards for many years. And as we're finding out through our freedom of information request, taxpayer funds were already spent on this before any legal footing actually even existed. As you know from the reports that you've seen, Richard, so they've been spending money, and it's all part of a pre-planned agenda.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really important for listeners to, which I would imagine that people listening to this particular radio station and Substack probably already realise this, but the whole kind of pantomime around Burnham becoming the Prime Minister, it's not some sort of cock up, or he's been very carefully chosen. Yeah,
absolutely.
He's very carefully chosen, and there's been no democratic process at all. He's just been, they said, he's the man that we want in there to drive this through. How can we do it? Oh, this is the way we'll do it. And so that's what we'll do. Yeah.
Yep.
And with kind of barely a whimper from anyone. It's like, how on earth can these people get away with this? It just leaves me quite speechless, quite unusually, actually. It leaves me speechless that in this so-called, and yet they're still like pretending we live in a bloody democracy. There's this kind of pretense that we're living in a democracy.
Yeah. Well, the majority of the population, are still feeding on bread and circuses.
Yeah,
that's one of the issues.
Yeah,
very much so. I mean, you only have to look at last month, the World Cup, this month, and how nothing but the football ever seemed to matter to most people. And then, for the powers that be, it was very convenient to sweep all these changes through at a time when people were being distracted by something else.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So it sounds like from what you said earlier, Stephen, that it's not that this current reorganization, it's not a done deal yet. It's not a fait accompli yet. Could you say a bit more about that and what people can do? And I mean, thanks to you, I wrote a letter to 4 local newspapers at the end of last week, which I hope are going to be in print this week, tomorrow and Thursday. But that's just, writing letters to newspapers is what I do. But there's all kinds of other things that people can do. Could you say a bit more? Maybe there's kind of petitions that can be signed. People can be much more proactive with their councils. Why are you just in a kind of supine way falling in with this, rather than saying, no, you've got no democratic mandate to actually kind of cancel us.
No, but you touched on something there about petitions, and petitions are a complete waste of time. It's
Right. Okay.
they
Yeah.
councils encourage you to do petitions because they can ignore them basically. What you need to do is do objections. You
Okay.
actually you make an objection and you withdraw your consent, and you get enough people to do that, whatever it is, that has far more substance than a petition. But in terms of what people can do at the moment, I mean, I'd really appreciate it, Richard, if you could put the template letter that people can send to their local MP, which has been
Yeah.
drafted. So there's two templates. There's one if your MP is Labour, and
Yeah.
there's one if he or she is non-Labour. But if you put both of those in the comments, people can then send those to their MP and withdraw their consent. And if enough people send these objection letters to their MP, hopefully it should force their hand to take action.
Right. Okay. Well, we can
That's
do that, mate.
there are kind of legal challenges going on at the moment in quite a few places about this, which has already been kicked off, which is good. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. But in the time being, everyone needs to kind of really understand the severity of the situation and right, just take the template letter and send it to your MP.
Right.
It's
Right.
really, really simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can put that in the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. We can certainly do that. Yeah. And we can
There's also a lot of really good information if people are looking for information about local government reorganisation. That template letter lays it out very clearly and concisely what is going on, particularly around the so-called housing crisis, which doesn't exist.
Yeah. 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 So are these legal challenges that you referred to, do you think they've got kind of wings? Are they being brought by like really, really competent people who know what they're doing and know how to negotiate a completely corrupt legal system?
Well, there's a couple of challenges from councils themselves against the government.
Oh, right.
That's
Okay.
more challenging, like what the end state looked like, rather than challenging the machinery itself and the
Right.
legality of that machinery.
Right.
So the National Residents for Civic Accountability, which is a local grassroots movement by the Heritage Party, are doing challenges which are focusing on the actual substance itself, the legality of the machinery, because there's been no legal footing for this from day one. There's been unlawful expenditure. There's been no data, local level or national level data, to justify these so-called emergencies, the so-called climate emergency, the housing emergency. There's no data to justify it, and the whole thing is just an illusion. And the challenge is very concisely set against the legality of the underlying building blocks of that machinery. So I am confident, but as to how things play out in the courts, I mean, after what we've just spoken about, it remains to be seen. But there is a good legal team working with the
Great.
National Residents for Civic
Great.
Accountability,
Yeah.
who know the legislation far better than I do, and which is encouraging. So there's a good team working behind that, and we will give updates in due course about how that's progressing.
Yeah. I should think that there is a place here for someone to write a really good article, like a really long article that really goes into great detail about the whole kind of background to this, what the kind of globalist background is, and then into what they're doing, the way they're doing it, why it's not lawful, blah blah blah. Do you know of anyone who's kind of written that up into a maybe a 5 or sort of 10,000 word article that listeners could actually go to?
Yes, I do. Madeline Hunt, who's been one of the kind of champions of bringing about all this action. She's
Madeline Hope.
Madeline
Madeline Hope.
Hunt.
Yeah.
Madeline Hunt.
Hunt. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was the one who crafted those letters, which obviously you've sent out to the MP and which you're going to put in the comments. But if you go onto her Substack, I'm not sure if it's specifically under her name or something else. I will find it for you. But she's written in detail about the devolution agenda and how it all fits into the long-term kind of globalist plan.
Well, I say first of all, we need to find what she's written, and I hope she's maybe done it in one article, and then all of us need to send it everywhere to all our friends, to all our contacts on social media, blah blah blah. And Dave, maybe Madeline needs to come on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need
Yes,
to talk to her about this.
I think that would be a great idea. I know she's incredibly busy.
Yeah, I'm sure she is. Yeah,
but I think she could explain it far better than I can, just because she's been involved with it from start to finish for a number of years, and she understands exactly what it entails, having seen that in her own country where she's from, with the devolution process that took place over there. So
where's she from? Where's she from?
I think she's
New
Polish.
Zealand.
She's Polish, I think.
She's Polish. Oh, she's from Eastern Europe.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty sure she's Polish.
Okay. Interesting.
So I will mention it to her. She's done an interview for Council Watch. So if people do want to kind of listen to one of her interviews, they can go on to the Council Watch website and find it there. But I will certainly raise it with her to say that you guys would be interested in doing an interview with her sometime.
Great.
What she has to say is very important, and she's far better at explaining it than I am.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but you are great at bringing this stuff out to the forefront, and you're so kind of proactive with it all. Once you've got like you're like a dog with a bone. Once you've got a cause, that's one of the things we absolutely love about you, Stephen. Once you've got a cause, my God, you go for it, mate. You go for it. It's fantastic.
I think that there's no point in getting angry about something unless you be prepared to do something about it.
Yeah.
If you know what's going on, then if you don't do anything about it, you're complicit yourself. You need to do something.
That's right.
People always have this attitude that, I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do. Nonsense.
Mm.
Even if you share this information with someone else, it's always something you can do.
Yeah. And that was why what you've just said is the reason why I was ambivalent earlier when I talked about feeling sort of demoralized, because while there might be part of us that feels that in the face of this system, it's incredibly important not to let that completely take over, such that we end up feeling helpless and hopeless, because that's exactly what they want, as you were describing in this whole legal process you went through. They want to exhaust you.
Yeah.
They want to exhaust people. So, and like, it's a very, very cynical calculation. The cynical calculation is, if we spin this out long enough and we run this bloke ragged, there's going to come a point where he's going to be so pissed off he's not going to be able to take it anymore. We just have to keep it going long enough until he gives up. This is what they want, isn't it?
Yes.
And so it's essential that we don't actually do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a good friend of mine, he said something. He made a quote, and I always remember it. What we're up against is the beast, and it's like David and Goliath, and you're not going to knock the beast out with one knockout blow. It's going to be death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
And every time we do something, we make a leaflet, we challenge them, we're denting them in ways that maybe we don't quite understand or we can't comprehend, but we really are. And every time we do something, no matter how big or small, we're denting their armory.
Yeah.
We're putting a chink, and there'll come a time where literally the beast will topple, but it's not going to be a swift knockout blow like we think it's going to be.
No, it's a bit like finding the Achilles heel, but then there's another one, then there's another one, and you
Yeah.
have to. So you found the Achilles heel with when they were threatening to cut down the trees, and I think that's the way it goes, isn't it? You find they try something new. Where's the Achilles heel in that we can go in and expose what's going on and challenge?
Yes, exactly. So, obviously yourself, Richard's doing a great job, and you're kind of at it through wind, rain, or snow on your stall every week, and very admirable.
Yeah.
You're one of the people I know that probably works the hardest. So, but all of us, every single one of us, can do something, and
Yeah.
that's the key kind of takeaway, and not to feel helpless.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Definitely.
glad I got to that, because when I was talking about the whole kind of demoralization thing, I was thinking, I'm not sure I should be saying this, but then I finally realized that actually, but that's quite a good segue into exposing what their game is. And like,
Yes.
the more we can become aware of what their game is, the more we can get choices that contravene what they're trying to do and the effects they're trying to have. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Well, I think, Stephen, you've got a busy day. I think you've probably covered most of the content about where you've been, where you've led up to, and what's next, which is still kind of up in the air by the sounds of it. So I don't know if you have anything else to say. We can finish a few minutes.
Yeah. We've
Few
just
minutes
got a couple of
early.
minutes left. Do you want to finish off with anything, Stephen? Yeah.
I think I've said everything I'd like to say. Like I said, just always do something, no matter how small or insignificant you think it might be. Just do something.
Hmm.
You can't just let things lie. If we all just ignore the problem, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
doing something and realizing that we are many and they are few.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
It's
we'll get the template letters
yeah.
attached to the podcast. We'll get it around as many people as we can.
Yes.
If I could just pick up on something there, that what I think is so important is not to have the mindset of um, I'm only going to be doing something if I know that it's going to have an effect. If we're in that mindset, that's the wrong mindset to have. The
Yes.
mindset is, if you have a million people doing little things, the whole lot joined up is unstoppable and cannot be resisted by these people. And the other thing is that actually, by doing something, you feel different. You feel that you are kind of empowering yourself. You're feeling empowered, and then the fact that you're then feeling that is very likely going to help you to kind of take more action. Yeah, because it actually feels good to be doing something.
Yeah.
Without being attached to what the outcome is, just to be doing the right thing,
Yeah.
and to be taking that responsibility and taking some action. Yeah.
I mean, I got a buzz for it. When I first started in my kind of activist days back in 2020. When I first put the the advert in the local press about the vaccine harms, and ever
That was
since
genius. We must talk about that, Sandan. That was genius. Yeah.
ever since that day, I just got a buzz for it. Just exposing these criminals that try and run our everyday lives, and I haven't stopped since. And it's in a way, it's quite enjoyable when you see that these people just there's nothing to them. It's just all a complete illusion.
Yeah.
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 I just have to just name this very briefly. Back in 2020, Stephen, from his own pocket, paid for a one-page thing in is it the Cheltenham Post?
Cheltenham Post, yeah.
Cheltenham Post, all about the jab. I mean, it was, like when we saw it, we were all in who's done this? My God, there's a whole page. And we found out subsequently that you were the kind of brainchild of this genius idea, and you paid for it out of your own pocket. You're one of the heroes, mate. You are one of the heroes, without a doubt. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's a compliment coming from you, who I regard as one of the biggest heroes of all time. So that's.
Well,
that's
I don't think that's true. But anyway, here we are, sort of puffing each other up. That's why we're here. Why we're here is we want people to listen to this and to feel empowered by what a few people are doing that's having an effect. Everyone listening to this can have an effect, and let's all get out and do it.
Yeah, the least they can do is to get the template letters, send them to their MP.
Yeah. Be the 99th monkey.
Yep.
Yeah.
99th monkey. Absolutely.
Brilliant, Stephen.
All righty. Well, we're
thanks so much.
That's it. Yeah, thank you for your time. We appreciate how busy you are. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure chatting with you guys. So thank you very much, and I will. I'll send you that article for the Substack that you can put in the comments.
That's great. And I will send that article everywhere I can possibly think of. We need to get that article cascading all over the country, so we get millions of people reading it to wake up to what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And there may even be an article for the Light about that.
Yeah. Well, I think you might have written something for the Light, but we must get onto that as well, Stephen. Yeah.
There's going to be a front page, isn't there, in the next month?
Yeah. No, it's a front page. Next issue. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Great. Well,
okay.
Gents,
all right, Stephen. I'm sure you'll be on here again before too long. we can't wait, mate.
I look forward to it.
Take care.
All right, take care. Thanks, Stephen.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
So it's goodbye from Stephen.
Yeah, and it's goodbye from
Aussie.
And it's goodbye from Skyman.
Skyman.
Until next time.
Take care,
Ciao.
folks. Bye.